Welcome to the December edition of the Hornet Spotlight. Just a reminder as we close out the first semester, which will close for parents that the first semester ends on December 19th. We will be taking exams. Let's see, we're going to take final exams on the 14th, 15th, 18th, and 19th. Exams for 1 and 4 will be the first day. Friday will be 5 and 8. And on Monday the 18th, we'll do 2 and 3, and we'll end up on the 19th with blocks 6 and 7. 2 final exams per day for the last 4 days of the semester. So we have about 13 days, as we shoot this video today, about 13 days of classes left before the final exam comes into effect. Again, reminder to parents, I know the students already know this, but the final exam is 20% of the semester grade. So you remember those days, right?
I do.
So you know that it's pretty serious business. We're dedicating basically a half a day to final exams in each block. So please stress the importance of those exams to your students when they are at home with you as we get into December. Also, we are off to a really great start in winter sports. Both the boys and girls basketball teams are yet to be beaten. The wrestling team had a great showing in the Capital City Classic, a couple champions, a couple runners-up. The swim team, both swim teams, boys and girls, have compiled winning records to this point, losing only to some pretty big-size, large schools. So the swimming is off to a great start. Wrestling's doing well. Basketball's doing well. So it is a great time to come out and watch our athletes compete in their various specialties. Also remember that I believe the date is, I want to say December 12th for the band and choir concert. That is always a great show. If you're not in the holiday spirit yet, that is certain to get you into it. I think also the weekend prior to that, the Nutcracker will be here on the, I want to say the 7th and 8th of December. Check our website, all that information, where you can get tickets, get pre-sale tickets for those events, and be a part of the Culture Beach Grove. Also, reminder, this Saturday, the 2nd of December, a big day here at the high school. Preparations have been going on for quite a while. The Riley Dance Marathon will be going full force most of the day on the 2nd of December, so stop by, make a donation. I know the student leadership team raised over $9,000 last year for Riley, and I know their goal obviously is to get to 10 or 11, maybe even 12,000 this year, and with your help they'll get that done. So a lot going on in December before we celebrate the holiday season with friends and family, and we're looking forward to that. We're also looking forward to that break, 100% full disclosure here. So we're excited about that, but again, take the time to come in, take a look at our students and their various specialties, doing the things that they do well and the things that they enjoy. And the next step for December is to recognize the alumnus of the month. And we've got a good one, as we always do. I know I say this practically every month, but when we meet in committee in the spring to select our alumni for this honor, somebody always makes the comment that, you know, why haven't we picked this guy before? Or why is this guy still sitting on the list? And this is one of them, and we do know why this guy's sitting on the list. This is his first year of eligibility. One of the things that we do look at is alums who have been graduates for at least 12 years. And this young man that I have with me today fits the bill. He is a graduate of the class of 2006, and it is Eddie Mobley. And Eddie came to us all the way from Clarksville, Tennessee to be with us today. And he's heading northeast before long, which we'll talk about in a minute. But congratulations on your selection, Eddie. Obviously, once the people hear about the things that you have done and your contributions to this country to this point, I know in another 12, 24, 36 years, we're gonna be very proud that you are a Beech Grove alum. And so congratulations to you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Good to have you. We'll start right in. Talk about you were a graduate of 2006, so you're one of the few people who remember this as a TV studio.
Right. Yeah.
So it wasn't quite as nice as this one, but we had it. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you enjoy. I know you're a big proponent of this school. Tell us about some of the things that make you that. What were the things about the high school that helped mold you and help make you what you are today?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for selecting me. This is an awesome honor. When I got the phone call, I immediately told my wife. I was extremely excited to come back to the school. This school and this city have really been a big part of my life, and I credit them to a lot of what I've been able to do so far. So, but really in high school, so I graduated 2006. I was involved in pretty much everything I could be. Played football, wrestling, track, and stayed with those three sports the entire time. Did Science Olympiad with Mr. Banks back in the day, was on newspaper staff, ran for school office, and did student council and stuff. So, I think all of those things all combined. So obviously we talk about how good of a science program we have here, how talented our English teachers are. We talk about all those things, but really the collective environment at Beech Grove is really what carried forward with me to West Point, and I think that is what conditioned me for success after I graduated here. But I can't be a bigger fan of Beech Grove Wrestling. We talk about the corporation motto, building a culture of excellence, and that room I think taught me a lot of skills that made me successful. When things got hard in college and you start thinking about going home, things get hard in life and you start thinking about where do I go from here? How do I dig myself out of this hole? I think the lessons in Beech Grove's wrestling room really conditioned me to conquer a lot of that adversity.
So basically the culture, your ability to do a lot of different things, did that contribute to it as well? It
did, absolutely. So, life is all about balances, and you've got to prioritize certain things at certain times, whether that's being a grandpa or whether it's, having a kid, or whether that's getting married and adjusting to family balances or starting a new endeavor, whether that's academic or whether that's career-oriented. And I think getting involved as much as I could here in the high school, and there were so many opportunities, both academically, in leadership roles, and then athletically, that I just tried to immerse myself. And fortunately, I had a lot of good mentors or coaches. I just got to say hi to Mrs. Bryant earlier today, and I remember a conversation that she had with me when I was a freshman, where she said, "Hey Eddie, you're pretty smart. I don't think you should be failing my class." And she had me go through a daily schedule, and I was going to football workouts in the morning, I was going to track workouts or track practice in the afternoon, and then I was going to Beech Grove Wrestling Club practices after the track practices 3 days a week. And I remember her saying, "Hey, listen, all those things are great, we're really proud of you, but none of that's going to matter if you start failing out of this class." And that really, it's a distinctive moment. I was probably 14 years old when that happened, but I still remember it here to this day. And when my priorities kind of get out of line, I think back to what Mrs. Bryant would say. And then Mr. Sackstetter, I know he's gone, Coach Kudre, some of those individuals, just the lessons that they imparted, time of conditioning myself to be a good guy of character, and then to win, and then to prepare to win. There's a lot of good mentors in this school system, and I'm fortunate that they touched me along the way.
And I think that gets back to, we talked to a lot of kids who come back, and one of the first things in talking with them, and what you said kind of backs it up. They say, you get to a point where you have to make decisions, and there is no textbook to give you the answer. You can't look up an answer if you have a life problem, if you have a priority problem, if you have a value problem. There's no book to give you an answer. You got to think things through, and it sounds like you learned those lessons well here in the high school.
Definitely.
So at what point, you're obviously a military man, and from talking to you, you might be a military man for life, but at what point in your high school years did you start thinking seriously about West Point or a service academy in general, or was it West Point or bust? What were you thinking at that time?
So I remember my junior year, and I'll talk very real here. So I remember when I was 14 years old, I knew I had to find a way to pay for college. Like, I knew that. I think that's important for kids from Beech Grove to understand, that don't just let finances be an issue. Don't let your performance in middle school or in younger high school tell you no. you can really shape your own destiny. But back to the original question, so when I was a junior, our track coach at the time had a friend who was a track coach at West Point. And so he just went to go visit over spring break, and he came back and he said, hey, I think you might want to look into this. And he's like, I think you might want to do some research. And so I asked around, and Coach Bush Collins was a graduate of West Point, and so he had me over. In full candor, he kind of talked me out of it. It sounded like a prison. And I was like, there's no way I want to do that. Especially at college, you're supposed to be having fun, supposed to be, you know, all this kind of stuff. You don't even have a TV in your room. You don't have anything. This isn't college. This is not what I want. This is penitentiary. But I started doing some more research into it. I started thinking about it. And the more and more the values of West Point, the opportunities that I would have there started to reach out to me. And then I started off my senior year applying for congressional nominations. So when you go to one of the service academies, I chose West Point, and that was the only one I applied to. But you have to get a nomination from either a congressman or a senator, and they're only allowed 5 at one time. So they typically have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then like one for a really competitive year. So it's kind of hard to fight that, and that's almost in its own little mini college application. And then simultaneously, you're applying to the academy. And so you kind of dive into both of those at the same time. And I was so late that Senator By's nomination was already filled, Senator Lugar's nomination was already filled, and then I applied for Congressman Julia Carson's nomination, and I eventually got that after a couple interviews and everything. But I remember multiple times along that, individuals were telling me, hey, you're probably not going to get it. You know, that's the entire Marion County, or like the center district that you're competing against, so don't get your hopes up. And fortunately, through a lot of perseverance and some good interviews, it worked out for me.
Did you interview with the Congresswoman herself?
I did not. So there was something that was going on at that time. So I interviewed with like, I think 4 different people from her staff over the course of 3 different interviews. And so, yeah, eventually then they send it up to her, and she gives a stamp of approval, and that's what happened.
Now, can you be admitted to a service academy without that nomination, without the congressional or senatorial nomination?
No, you cannot.
Impossible.
And unless if you have a family member who's a Medal of Honor winner. There's a couple of caveats to that, but it's
pretty much they pick who goes. Right.
So that's kind of a cool thing and that makes sure that people from all over the United States are represented. And if there's no one in some town in South Dakota, that billet can be used for a student somewhere else. So there's ways to balance it out, but typically they come from their congressman or senator's home state or district. So, and I was fortunate enough to wrestle there. So got to wrestle Division I in college. So that's pretty cool.
Was it the penitentiary you expected?
It was. So freshman year is pretty rough. You definitely lose some of those, what I would call them, like human privileges sometimes. You're not talking outside, and it's really strict on freshmen, but for a good reason. It kind of erases where you came from, or kind of just puts that on the back burner, and then starts instilling some of these values that make you successful as a military officer, make you successful as a leader. And so that kind of baselines everyone, no matter where they came from. Even I have a classmate from the Maldives. I had a classmate from Iraq back then. That we all kind of grow up together with the same core values when we're about 18 years old. And then as you mature as a cadet and as a leader, you start developing your own styles of leadership. And throughout the entire time, you're going through a regular college curriculum, and I majored in economics and got a degree in that. But through that, they're really conditioning you to perform at the next level, which is an officer in the United States Army. And post-graduation, I commissioned aviation and went to flight school, learned how to fly Apache helicopters. That's pretty cool. And then progressed through there, combat deployment to Afghanistan, and then one last fall to Iraq and in the vicinity of that area. And just got to fly several different helicopters, operate in the special operations community, operate in the conventional Army as an Apache pilot. And then the Army's just given me a lot of opportunities, so pretty thankful for it all.
And you're getting ready, you're you hope to embark on another level of education. Talk to us a little bit about that. What you plan to do, what you hope to be able to do here in the not too distant future.
Right. So my current job, I fly Apaches for the Army, and I'm a company commander. So essentially, I lead a 35 to 52 person team, depending on what we're doing. And we fly a lot of, we fly Apache helicopters, and we're either training here or we're going to war to do our mission over there. But an opportunity arose that the Army has these people that are called strategists, and so they work on kind of the big picture future problems. So whether that is how do we prepare to fight against a certain adversary, how do we better link our State Department and diplomatic resources with our military, and so these strategists kind of synergize all of the instruments of like national power. And so I applied to be an Army strategist, and specifically to a program that sends you to Harvard en route to do that. So got accepted to go be an Army strategist, and I'm currently in the application process to Harvard, and specifically the Kennedy School of Government, to get a Master's of Public Administration there. And yeah, so things are trending positively. I'm pretty lucky. And that'll all be a full ride, essentially. So,
yeah. Luck is what you make. What is it, Mr. Cox used to say? Luck is hard work. I forget, he had a saying for that.
I think it's preparation meets opportunity.
There we go. Preparation meets opportunity. That was his favorite. I should have remembered that. Backtrack just a little bit at West Point when you were talking about the first year. Did you feel like that all the things you did your first year kind of help you as a bond, as a group with your classmates in that particular class? Mm-hmm. And I would also think it also kind of did it weed out a few that probably made bad choice in the beginning?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a well-known psychological concept of team bonding, that shared hardship unites people, and that's really what your first year at West Point does. But through that, you do become a team, and it's amazing that team that we all met each other when we were 18 years old, and here, fast forward 5 years, I'm flying in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and literally 10 of my classmates are platoon leaders on the ground leading infantry foot patrols through Kandahar, Afghanistan. And so, just imagine what that is. This is a relationship that started when we were 18 years old in 2006, and now we have graduated, we've gone through our flight training, or they've gone through their respective infantry training, and now we are applying those values, those skills that we learned at West Point on the battlefield in defense of our nation. So that's a pretty cool experience. And I remember, when you're talking on the radio to one of your classmates and you're watching them walk down there and you're trying to do everything you can to make sure he's safe, that's just a profession that doesn't get too much more rewarding than that. So
I can imagine. Now, fast forward again here to Harvard. Now, you talked, when we were talking before we came on air, you're not a West Point person while you're in college, right? You said the uniform comes off and you're a regular college type student, civilian?
Right. So getting accepted to Harvard and attending school there would mean, walking around, regular people clothes again, like taking off the uniform for a little bit, except for occasional events and stuff like that. But really, my job will transfer into, hey, just go to school and learn as much as you can. And that's what the Army will pay me to do, which is pretty amazing to think of, getting paid your full salary and then also getting all of your school paid for at the same time. So that's pretty awesome.
And once we'll assume Harvard's smart enough to accept you, and we know you're smart enough to graduate. Once you graduate, what kind of plans do the military have for you then?
So I'll follow on, go to the Pentagon, so in Washington, D.C., and work basically either with the State Department and trying to really link the State Department's plans for resolving conflicts. So think Iraq, think Afghanistan, how do we set up stable governments there, with the military's instruments of power, so that to make sure that we're working in concert together. Also, I could be tasked with, hey, think about the war that's 10 years out or 20 years out, and how do we start developing that? Like, it's probably going to have a lot to do with cyber realm, which is something that when I was at West Point was never even a thought. I mean, we were lucky to have laptops there. And now, you walk in Beech Grove High School and everyone's got Chromebooks, and this is awesome. So, but we just see that battlefield changes, and I'm supposed to be the guy who stays on top of it.
So that sounds like a pretty awesome responsibility, but I know you're looking forward to it.
I am, absolutely.
It's kind of like putting up with Coach Sachs there in the wrestling room, right?
Right, and that hair going everywhere while I'm losing my own. It's just
through this time, you have obviously been close to your Beech Grove family. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about them. They're here in the audience, so
right?
we'll better acknowledge them.
Yep, absolutely. So my mother's on the school board. I've lived in Beech Grove ever since I was 1, and then moving off to college. So truly a Beech Grove product through kindergarten all the way through my senior year here. Married my wife, Emily, 2.5 years ago.
Make sure you got that
right. I know. You got to do that. Public math is never good, especially when you're on camera. So she has that to reference for the rest of.
And she's running her own business,
she
right?
Is. Yep. So a lot of times you hear about how careers are difficult for military spouses because we have to move so much. Mm-hmm. And poor her, she moved out to Colorado thinking that she was going to stay out there in the beauty of the mountains for the rest of her life. And she's originally from Cincinnati. And then I took her down to Columbus, Georgia, which is not exactly the equivalent of like Savannah, Georgia, or along the Atlantic coast.
It's not.
And then now we live just north of Nashville in a town called Clarksville, Tennessee, which definitely we like it there. And she runs her own business as a dietetic, or she runs her own private practice dietetic consulting firm there. So life is good. We're very fortunate. So, yeah.
And maybe if you get into Boston, you can catch the Celtics once in a while. You weren't a basketball guy, but you got to go to the
right.
Garden.
Well, we're definitely not converting to the Patriots, so we'll see.
Don't do that. Don't get carried away. Don't get carried away. This would translate to a military career for you right on down the line. Do you? And again, we're talking about stuff well beyond the present, but do you see yourself staying in the military for an extended period of time, or would you like to get into some type of private enterprise, public service? What kinds of things you see for yourself down the road?
Sure. So right now, my wife and I are both happy with the military. It's treated us very well. I mean, here I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree that will soon be paid for entirely by the United States Army. And that's a pretty amazing opportunity. And we've gotten the assignments that we've wanted, the jobs that I've wanted, kind of the responsibilities and the deployments and everything that I've wanted. So we're very happy, and there's no reason to get out right now. And to say that, like, I could get out of the Army tomorrow, well, about a 6-month notice as opposed to a 2-week notice, but I could if I wanted to, and I'm not, because it's been so good to me and my family. So,
excuse me for interrupting. What's your required obligation once you graduate from West Point?
So graduating West Point is 5 years active duty and then 3 years in the reserve, which is a pretty good trade-off, I think. I mean, you go to a world-class institution, and you get some awesome experiences. I met President Bush, President Obama. I had dinner with Secretary Gates while I was there. I did an internship with Senator Richard Lugar, bouncing in between Indianapolis and D.C. while I was there, and I got to travel literally all over the world. And so I think it's a pretty good deal if you get accepted. So, but post-Army career, we haven't quite decided where we're going to stay yet. So my wife being from Cincinnati, me being from Indianapolis, we could happily go back to either city. And there's a lot of other great places across the country that we would like to go. Service has always been kind of an important thing to me. So whether that's continuing to work in the public sector, continuing to work for the government, or starting some kind of private enterprise, I don't know. Hopefully I'll just rely on my wife to take care of me after that. So, But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of good possibilities out there. But you know, I'd definitely be happy coming back to Indianapolis.
You got a lot of life in front of you.
Right. I know.
It's nice to have options.
Right.
It's nice and I think the point that I hope our students could take from this, you created options by a lot of hard work. You did things don't just happen.
Sure.
Good things happen through hard work and preparation and planning and prioritizing, and I think you're a prime example of that. I think Miss Bryant didn't waste her time with you, did she?
No, she did not.
So it is, again, on behalf of our Renaissance Committee, it is my pleasure to present you with this token of our appreciation.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming in again from all the way from Tennessee. The weather's still not bad here. We're living through a nice warm spell.
No, it's not bad at all.
So thank you for coming up. We look forward to following Eddie Mobley for quite some time. You are, I think we made mention before we came on, I thought of one while we were talking. I think we've had 5 Service Academy graduates in 25 years. We had one in the Air Force Academy. I forgot about Jay Tao.
Okay.
So we've had 4 through West Point and 1 through the Air Force Academy in a 25-year period. So that's pretty good. And that says, I think that says a lot about what we do here as a high school,
Absolutely.
as a school corporation. But it's been a pleasure to have you here. It was a pleasure to watch you grow for 4 years here at Beech Grove High School and all the good things you've done for this high school, coming back, talking to the kids, doing all the things at the middle school, elementary here. It means a lot to a lot of people, and I'm including myself. So thank you for your service. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to having another alum first of the year. Eddie closes out 2017 with a bang, and we hope to start 2018 out just as well with a new alumnus of the month, and we'll look forward to meeting them in the January edition of the Hornet Spotlight. Have a very happy holiday season, and we'll see you again next month.